Yeah, if you could have the pallbearers come forward, please, whoever's supposed to be pallbearers.
Put in on the other end. Get up to the grave. Turn it and put it on the grave. But I'll be there.
Other things, yes, we're going to stop 7 times along the way. Those stop, continue to stop. Yes. 2, so you know what? So I'll tell you what. So one of you come and stand in the band and hold it from the head. You know, from the hand. It's easier if you come this way. It's easier if you stand up here. Stop. Can you never vote for Yellow? Yes, you're so right. You vote for that level. That's what that's back there. Yeah. Stop. Can you? Yeah. Well, I'm like that. See, I don't sound about that. I don't think that's what I'll make the sound all that. I'm not fucking happy with you. Can you vote for my 11? Stop. Can you never vote for that? Close to me, like a rub and egg like pop all that, but I love puppy tap it love, the short bob, a full throat that.
I can do it for now. And there are a lot more people.
Together under the tent. Spoilers of it. The night of Elo at Star, especially our between I'm able to post in our lane. Now, she show baby, I'm painting from my set X man to know. Gam late to get some of us for the rot at Toymoti. Shift the home, stand echo him in Akamuni. I wrote upon ice will call negative to Roy. The chance of Hashem and Roshi for Silver Boya. After what Hesed, you're tuning Koyme Tayoy. Shanti the Vesa to lay the Orach Yamim. A song of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. God caused me to lie down in lush pasture. God leads me beside tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in righteous paths for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and staff, they comfort me. Prepare a table before me and fulfill my adversary. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup will flow. May only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This past Shabbat, someone asked me a question, which I thought was a little bit strange, but I've been thinking about it in the last few days. Someone asked me, when did Moses, when did he become a hero? I said, what does that mean? What do you even mean when did he become a hero? I said, what I mean is, did he become a Navi? When did he begin to speak directly with God? Okay, that's an interesting question. We can talk about it. But what hit me so much about the question is anyone who knows the stories of the Chumash knows that from a very young age, Moshe Rabbeinu was already doing remarkable things. Commentaries say at 12 years old, he went out to see what was going on with his brethren. He stood up for someone who was being persecuted by an Egyptian. He gave rebuke to two Jews who were fighting against each other. He stood up for Tzipporah when she was being persecuted by shepherds. He came back, he led the Jewish people out of Egypt. He taught the Jewish people the Torah. He was advocated on behalf of the Jewish people to God. He did so many things. And if somebody wanted to say about Moshe Rabbeinu, famous Moses, that he was of this or he was of that, it would be an incomplete statement. It's hard to come up with the common denominator of all the things that Moshe Rabbeinu did. And we could think about it, but broadly speaking, the acts are very disparate. But I think it's fair to say that there is one very strong common denominator, and it was the remarkable character of Moshe Rabbeinu, the remarkable person that he was. And that person, whatever the situation required, he was ready to do it. It could be standing up for someone, it could be speaking with humility, it could be advocating, it could be teaching, it could be leading. The person was able to fit into any of these situations because of the remarkable character. And this is just something that began to float around in my mind a few days ago, but has resonated much stronger in my mind over these last couple of days since I heard about the very sad passing of a great, great person that so many of us knew and admired, but more than knew and more than admired, we loved Noach Roitman. We loved him. What kind of person was Noach Roitman? You know what? It depended on the situation. It could be he was fighting with the partisans. It could be he was in Baranovich, ecstatic about the fact that he met and saw Rav Elchanan Wasserman Zichrono Livracha. It could be that he was talking to someone in shul. It could be he was sitting in a Torah class. It could be he was enjoying his family. It could be he was fixing someone's roof. It could be anything, because he was such a fine person, an overflowingly good neshama, an overflowingly good soul. So it wasn't many people in this world have an area of specialty. His specialty was who he was. Whatever he needed to be in the situation, that's what he was. And I'm sure there are so many perspectives here. I'm sure any words that are said, there's no way to completely capture the feelings and memories of even a majority of the people here. But I just want to share, if I may, broadly speaking, two things that stand out in my memory about the very, very unique soul that he carried in this world. One was his love of Torah. He had such an appreciation, such a love of being able to study Torah and connect Torah. So I was telling his daughters before, I've known him for about 25 years. Before I was involved in the shul, some of you might remember Rabbi Gershmelovich should be well. He organized a shiur for retirees, daily shiur for retirees. And every now and then he would go away to Israel. And I was a young fellow in Yeshivas Polo, and he said to me, why don't you actually, before I was even married, why don't you teach some classes when I'm away? And Mr. Roitman was one of the students. And it was the most amazing thing. You know, many of you have studied Talmud before. You know, this one says this and this one says that. You have a little bit of a dispute. And this one liked that answer and that one liked that question. And that part they didn't pay attention to so much. Noach Roitman sat there. Every time I looked at him, he was just beaming. he was just ecstatic to be there. And like any time I would see him after the class, he would always tell me, wow, that was amazing. That was so great. It was overflowing. Someone told me, someone who didn't really know him, and he happened to visit him about a year ago, when obviously things had slowed down significantly for him. Told me they were trying to get him going. They were trying to sort of really engage him in a conversation. This didn't work, and that didn't work. And a family member prodded him. I don't remember, but he somehow came along, asked me about growing up in Barana. And Rav Chanan Wasserman. And he said, Dad got this elderly man who really didn't have patience to say two words to me. That got him going. Not enough. But I had the experience at times of visiting Mr. Roitman again later life. And he was always so warm, but he didn't really necessarily have the energy to talk. But if you told him about Torah, you saw his body language change. Stand up a little bit more, lean down. So to me, that was part of his tremendous beauty. But then there was another part of him that was so beautiful and so special, and that was his tremendous love of people, tremendous warmth towards people. I know this, I was going to say, we could write a book about his life. It's been written already. But we could write many books. We could write many books about just the experiences here of his warmth. I just want to share with you one or two personal experiences that I had. A number of years ago, I'm talking around 15 years ago, we had a leak in our roof. So what do you do if Baruch Hashem, a lovely community such as ours, what do you do if you have a problem? You ask, maybe someone has an idea. I knew Mr. Roitman had done things for us years before. So I figured I called Mr. Roitman. I said, I've got an issue with my roof. What did I think was going to happen? I thought he was going to tell me who to call. That's what I thought. There's no way that a person of this age is going to start. At most, he'll call someone to come. All of a sudden, he says, Rabbi, I'm coming over. So he came over. Okay, so I think he needs to understand the problem. I'm not describing it well enough. And it was a complicated thing. Suffice it to say, he hired people to fix it for me. And there were follow-up problems. It was complicated. He kept on coming back. He went up on our roof numerous times. I know, Etty, I know you weren't very happy with us, but whenever I would see him, he would ask me what's doing. I couldn't lie to him. But it was this tremendous love. And I want to tell you, what I saw from him, what I heard from him, and this I heard from him expressed in more than one context. This is obviously what he needed to do. This was his malacha. And it gave him so much, I don't know what phrase to use other than mat nefesh, distress, when a house wasn't built well, or someone cleaned something and it wasn't good. But what I mean, I really want to reflect on this. Obviously, because he was a person of hard work, and he would have done it a certain way, and it distressed him. But I think what the ultimate distress was there was a person counting on this house. And so he was imaginarily talking or thinking about the person who did B quality work. How could you do B quality work? Somebody needed you. By the way, there are people who are older, you might think wouldn't be the type to do this or that do it. But the reason they do it is because they want to prove they can still do it. I don't think that was his main motivation. I think his main motivation was he wanted to help me. I'll tell you another simple story, but there's an old world wisdom in this story, but I think there's also just a warmth of people in this story. So a number of years ago, I was an applicant to be the assistant rabbi of our synagogue. And they narrowed it down to candidates. So one Shabbat, I came and did my thing, and another Shabbat, the other candidate, who's a fine, wonderful person, came and did his thing. someone actually is here who told me this story. They were walking home from shul the second Shabbat. They happened to be walking with Mr. Roitman. And they said to Mr. Roitman, "No, what do you say? Who do you vote for?" He said, "No, this rabbi is so fine. That rabbi is so fine. I say the synagogue shouldn't print up all those paintings of all of everything. You'll save a lot of money and you'll hire both of them." But he saw that was his appreciation of people. And whatever the rest of us saw, the rest of us had this look at the great opportunity and merit to see of his warmth. I'm sure it's only a fraction of the warmth that he felt and expressed towards his dear friend. And it was obvious the love and caring that sometimes from up close, sometimes through conversation, that I saw, particularly in his later days, from his devoted daughters, was clearly just, and sons-in-law as well, and grandchildren, was clearly an expression reflecting that of the love that he demonstrated together. Noah, of course, the figure from the Chumash, Noah, was the person with whom God started the world over. Humanity had conducted itself in an unacceptable manner. God needed to basically destroy civilization and start over with Noah. Noah Roitman lived through a terrible time. And a person lived and experienced the things that he saw, literally fighting and struggling for his very life, would have every right, once they survived by the goodness of God, but once they survived, to be bitter and hate the world and hate people. And I feel like one never can understand who made it, who didn't make it, why. We'll never understand it. But one to take a step back and appreciate that after the world, after civilization was so horrible, so uncivilized, that you should be a person like Noah Roitman walking around the world that should teach each and every one of us what it is to have a celebration, to have a godliness in one's character, what it is to have a true neshama, a true beautiful soul. And for those of us fortunate enough to connect to what it is to be a Jew, and I feel like every moment was demonstrated there. He was a person who physically accomplished and was able to do a great deal. And if you saw him at the end of his life, he looked like a small, frail person. And I was thinking to myself the other day, how do we fit the two? But I think the real answer was the Shema, his soul, the tremendous ratzon, the tremendous will that lives inside of him, the tremendous spirituality that lives inside of him. The pasuk says, "Ner Hashem Nishmata." There's different ways to translate the verse, but one way to look at it is the soul of a person is a flame from God. And our world, more than anyone else's family, so many of the rest of us in a secondary way, were blessed by the tremendous warmth of his soul and the tremendous light that his soul gave him. And when you go back to the Beit Avel today and you light Shiva candles, that represents his soul. And my hope is the beautiful flame that his soul bore in this world should be a constant memory of warmth, but also to guide the path forward for the road for generations of his family and for every person who had great opportunity to know him. He's the brother. Yes, daughter Tommy.
Rabbi, I can't talk it. I cannot talk, but I will say just a few words. Abba Yakar. I'm not a crier, so if I cry, it's very new. My father Noah, Zichrono Livracha, lived his life with great dignity guided by his faith. He stated in Pirkei Avot on three things the world stands: on the Torah, on service, and on active loving faith. He lived based on these three pillars and more, and he taught us many important life lessons. His kindness, altruism were evident by his care, compassion, friendships, generosity, and treating others as he would like to be treated. He was a generous thoughtful. He never spoke about his possessions, but gave of himself and his resources and said yes to any request. He prioritized people's needs with money, time, possessions, and his motto was, "What can I do for you?" My mom said about him that he had in Yiddish, shittere hands, meant that he couldn't hold on to anything. And I was explained that by my friend Helen, thank you. Meaning that in his case, whatever money he had, he gave to accept. Hundreds of requests by mail and in person came his way, and he gave to all. He was smart, funny, a storyteller who regaled us with many tales, and a lover of music and more. He and I used to break into song whenever we were together, more notably when we took family trips, a memory I will cherish forever. Poor Epi had to survive it. He was a hero and a leader. He was courageous, selfless, and a determined leader who, even at risk to himself, saved people from the Baranovich ghetto by infiltrating it by cover of darkness, cutting the barbed wire, and taking people to the woods where the partisans were. That is how he also saved my mother. He was sent on numerous missions to both save people and fight against the Germans. He fought with the Russian army to liberate Berlin, later in Israel's War of Independence and the Sinai War. He lived and fought for his strongest conviction. One of the many meaningful lessons that Eti and I learned. He was interviewed by historians, and his testimonies were published by Lenore Roitman and Svi Bittelman. I quote from their book. This absence of the story of the Holocaust in Baranovich in local histories and the failure to tell the story of the Jewish Holocaust more generally in the former Soviet Union make it the more important to have Noah Roitman account these events. This is especially true because no books were published, dissertations written, or films made about the Holocaust in the former Soviet Union for nearly half a century afterwards. In his personal life, he was always the glue of any group, both in the partisans and later in Israel and in his local communities, including the synagogue. He loved and was loved by all who knew him. As a father, he was always unconditionally loved. He showed physical and emotional love, was a great hugger who gave you the confidence that you are safe. He showed warmth, affection, care, concern, nurturing, and oath. He unconditionally accepted Eti and I, and no matter what we did, we could do no wrong in his eyes. Eti, who was a tomboy, mischievous, would go on what's called the impossible gym and would fall and break some bones that necessitated carrying her to a doctor. And no matter how many times she was told not to do it, defying his orders, he never chastised. He lived a principled life and was an amazing role model to all who knew him. As an optimist and strong even at the toughest times, he always found the ray of light to help him and those around him. An admirable character who always saw the glass half full. He led a life full of good deeds and purpose and created a loving family with his wife, Dushka, our mother. His kids, grandkids, and great grandkids loved him deeply, and he loved and was very proud of him. That is a legacy he left for us to follow. I love you, Abba. May you rest in
Please rise for the memorial prayer. Amen. Yamole Rachamim, Shokain, Bamiromim, Amtseim Ruchonachona, Kanfei Ashkina, Malos Kedoshim Torim, Kizor, Kiamasi, Estishmas, Noach ben Shalom Yaakov, Jolak Yolamo, Baburshanachim Spalim, Yaras Haras Nishmaso, Gana Eden, Taimanuchaso, Kimbalarachmim Yaski Rehub, say Ser Knapav Yolamim. Yitzror, B'torah Chayimas Nishmaso, Adonai Nachlaso, Yanuach, B'Shalom Mishkavo, V'Nomar, Amen. God full of compassion flows on high. We have proper repose on the sheltering wings of your presence. The lofty levels of the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Noach Roitman, who has gone to his world, and for his memory we pray. May his repose be in paradise. May the master of compassion bring him under the cover of God's wings and bind his soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be his heritage, and may he repose in his resting place of peace.